Welcome to Sales and Marketing Talk Show Live. This is our first episode in English. I'm quite excited about this one. And today I have a guest from Barcelona, Jake Steiner. And we are talking about growth marketing. And we could actually start off by, Jake, you introducing yourself. Who are you and where do you come from?
Okay, so as you said, my name's Jake and I'm originally from the UK, but I'm now living in Barcelona. I came back here 5 years ago for the sun, basically, because we all know in the north of Europe it's rainy and colder. So I came here for the beach, the sun, the culture, etc. Should I give a background into how I got into growth marketing, this kind of thing?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. So basically it began when I was younger. I was into building websites, right? So when I was 11, 12, I was trying to build websites. I remember using, I think it was called, I can't remember the program actually, so don't worry about that. But I was building websites, I was trying to teach myself to program. And then obviously when you built something, you have to drive traffic to that, right? You have to work out how can I get users or people to use the thing I just made. So I came across two things. One thing was something called SEO. And I actually bought a book called SEO for Dummies. And that's why I tried to teach myself SEO like almost 10 years ago. Well, more than 10 years ago, actually. It's 11, 12 years ago. And the way I got into PPC was I basically didn't have any money because I was 16 years old. But I went onto eBay and I found Google AdWords vouchers for £1. So I paid £1. I got £75 to spend on Google AdWords to launch my first campaign. I can't remember how well it went, probably terrible. But it let me pay on the platform by getting a voucher, and I think you can get those many magazines and this kind of thing. But the way I originally got into growth marketing was through trying to get people to use my actual website. And the first website I ever made programmatically was a website to allow you to upload images and share them with people. But the main project I worked on was a language exchange website where people could sign up, post an ad. This was it 10, 11 years ago. You could post an ad saying, hey, I'm looking to exchange languages for my English for your Spanish, and then other people could contact you, right? And I did SEO to drive people to this website, working on keywords like Spanish language exchange, English language exchange, and these types of keywords. I had to build links. It was a lot easier then. You could just do a link exchange with another website and you'd go up in the rankings, put in those keywords, this kind of thing. But the world has changed a lot, right? So that's basically how I got into growth marketing, through trying to drive traffic and trying to get people to my own thing that I'd built myself, right?
Great. That's a cool story. And for last roughly 4 to 5 years, you've been working with great SaaS companies, Typeform and TravelPerk, one of the fastest growing SaaS companies in the world. And today we go more deeply about how to do growth marketing in SaaS business. But before going any deeper, could you open our listeners and viewers, what is growth marketing about? What is growth marketing?
Very good question. So it depends on the business you work in, because people have different definitions of what this thing means, right? But the way I look into it is to split growth into two parts. One part I would call growth marketing, and the other part I would call product growth, right? It depends on your organization, but usually you have a team of people working on the marketing side and a team of people working on the product side. In terms of the marketing side, it's how can you drive more signups. This is a simplified version of it. How can you drive more signups into your product, right? And then the product growth team look at these signups and they say, how can we get them to activate and use our product? How can we get them to drive revenue, expansion, etc.? But obviously, with everything, there's a big overlap, right? There's never one big divide saying product does this and marketing does that. Obviously, marketing helps with trying to get people to pay for your product through retargeting, email marketing, webinars, etc. And then same with product. Product can help in other areas too. But other than that, it's very numbers driven, right? I also the other thing we have is also brand marketing, which I think is completely separate as well. However, growth marketing is numbers driven, right? So it's It's like performance marketing. It's more or less a synonym.
Yeah, great. And then of course, like growth marketing is special in SaaS business, and we will talk more about that one today. And we could actually start off by discussing about how to acquire the right clients for your SaaS business. What could you share about that one, and what kind of methods you have used, for example, in Typeform, TravelPerk, and now with the companies you are currently working?
Okay. So when you say acquire the right person, what do you mean exactly?
I would say that how to acquire the right clients for you. So basically, the clients that will stay for a long time, buy more, refer you to more clients.
Okay.
Your ideal clients.
Okay. So I guess if you're just like starting out your business, it's super hard to identify who are these people. You can have like a good guess. These are going to be the people that are going to spend the most money because they stick around for the longest and they purchase my highest priced products, right? But I guess like in the beginning, you have to hustle and get as many customers as possible and do different tactics. And then based on your best assumptions, right? And then only then can you do the analysis to segment your customer base to work out who are these people that have the highest lifetime value, right? So in the early days of Typeform, we had no idea. So it's just, let's get people using the product, sharing the product, get some monthly recurring revenue, right? MRR into the product. And then only after like a couple of years and like thousands of customers did we then break down and say, who are the people that churn the least? So they leave our product the least. Who are the people that have the highest revenue per account? Like who gives us the most money? And we did the segmentation. I think it was like people who do marketing, like sales and marketers. That was like the role who spends the most money. And then we decided to work out how can we find more of these people, right? And one of the main growth levers of Typeform, apart from its viral loop, right? Because when people share a Typeform, which is like a form, a survey, or a quiz, then other people see this. They see the Powered by Typeform button at the bottom, and then they discover what this cool quiz, form, or survey was that they just did. So Typeform has a viral loop, and that's how it grew from like 0 to 10 million annual recurring revenue with no penny and no money in marketing, right? So it's truly product-led growth, all up to 10 million in revenue. And then what we focused on afterwards was basically search marketing, right? So SEO and paid search on different keywords, and there's hundreds of keywords that you can do. So like I said, with Typeform, you have like quizzes, surveys, and forms, and then you can go down a level. So for example, feedback form, application form, then you can go down another level, like membership application form, and you can keep going down different levels. So we had hundreds of keywords that we could position ourselves for in Google and also pay in paid search. So this is basically what we did. We built out hundreds of templates. We built a template gallery. We built different landing pages to capture this demand because we were lucky that people were searching for a solution that we offered, right? So we're able to build out all of these templates. And then when we gathered data, we could then drill down on which type of templates would lead to a higher conversion rate, right? And then we focus on those templates and then we built more of them. For example, lead gen templates, because we knew it was a great use case for marketers who would come and do lead gen with Typeform, and they were prepared to spend more money. Like one of our other templates which didn't have a high conversion rate was our wedding one. So surprisingly, people use Typeform for their wedding invitations, where they invite people to their wedding for a Typeform, but that had a low conversion rate. So we could segment and see where can we focus our efforts and resources to then get even more customers, more signups, more people using our product, right? So that's kind of how we found the right client. But obviously in the beginning, we were focusing on just get people to use our product, get the data to then make those decisions afterwards, right? And do that segmentation. And to do that, we added a onboarding survey where we would ask people, hey, what's your role? What are you looking to do with Typeform? For new users, and for all of those like hundreds of thousands of sites we had before, we did like an email campaign where we would retroactively get the data, put it into our database so that we can do a big analysis to work out who is our target customer, because we didn't know. All we knew was that we had a hot product that was growing super fast into millions of revenue, but we didn't know who our target audience was. That sounds a bit crazy, right? But it happened.
Yeah, exactly. And in your time in Typeform, you were using a lot of money for like paid ads. I found some information that it was around $4 million per year for paid search alone. So you got a lot of experience on that one. But what would you like start with if you are a SaaS company, but you really haven't done that much of paid ads yet, and you don't have that big of team to do all that stuff you did on Typeform? What would you say are the things to start with when you're like starting to do paid ads?
I mean, it's a good question. Like when I started at Typeform, when I joined, month number one, my budget was like 5,000 euros to spend per month on ads. So in the beginning, I didn't have a huge budget either. Had to prove that actually this thing can actually work. And the challenge in B2B is that you have a lag, like a longer lag than in B2C with conversion terms, right? So at Typeform, when someone clicks on an ad, on average, it would take 3 months for them to then purchase Typeform, which is a long time because Typeform is a freemium business model. So people would sign up, they would use it for free, and then they would decide to pay for it or not, right? So it's very different to other SaaS companies like money.com or Squarespace, where you have like a 14-day free trial. And then usually the average conversion time is 14 days. So actually freemium doesn't favor paid ads that well. But the point I'm trying to make is in the beginning, you have no idea what your ROI is because it takes so long to find that out. You know, so I guess my recommendation would be, in the beginning, you have to commit to a budget that you want to spend in paid ads, and it can be low. It doesn't have to be like millions of dollars or 50,000, 100,000, right? It can be like 5,000, 10,000, because you want to figure out like how long does it take for you to convert one client from paid ads, and what type of keywords would work the best if you're doing paid search, right? So you should really set up different hypotheses and experiments in the beginning to work out what should you then spend your next budget on. Because if you run this test for 3 months and then you have all these different hypotheses that you prove or disprove, then at the end of those 3 months, you can decide to then increase your budget or not, depending on what happened, right? And the important thing is with paid ads is to always follow cohorts, right? So some people make the mistake that they spend, say, $20,000 in 1 month, and they say, how many customers did I get in the same month? But that's a big mistake, right? Because that money that you just spent is going to impact the next year. Because in Typeform, we saw like a big long tail. We even saw people who clicked on an ad in 2016 and paid for Typeform in 2018. That's 2 years. Yeah, that's like a huge lag. So I think year one it was like 80%, and then the next year was like another 20% or something crazy like that. So what we did there was we actually factored in a prediction model where after 30 days we would predict how much revenue would we get in the future to then work out the ROI properly. Because if not, you're giving like a fake ROI number, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And in the start of this episode, I already asked you like how to acquire the right clients, and actually I think that is very, very important in SaaS business, and because we want to acquire clients that will stay our client for a long time. And of course, like the acquiring part is important, but then one important thing is also like what happens after we have the customer on board with us. And you did an interesting study not a long time ago, and you actually decided to sign up for 7 of the top SaaS companies and pay for their products and then churn, so you can share your tactics about what are they doing when people or companies are trying to churn. So could you share us some tactics that companies were using after you decided to end the contract with them?
Definitely, right? So this was definitely like an interesting experiment, right? To see if I sent to these SaaS companies, what are they trying to do to keep me? Because like in the beginning at Typeform, we would just guess what's the best thing we can do to try and keep people in our product. But then I thought, why don't I just go and sign up to some SaaS companies and see what they're up to? So here are like some examples I have, and some are like shocking ones. So for example, at MailChimp, when you want to unsubscribe, they say, if you unsubscribe, we're going to delete your whole account. That was the most shocking one, really, you know, because I didn't expect like this well-respected brand, MailChimp, to say, actually, we're going to delete everything you've done if you stop your subscription with us. Like, we're going to delete all of your campaigns, all of your subscribers, everything. So they're using like this whole investment principle against you, basically. Like, the more you invest, the more pain you're going to feel when you try and leave that thing, right? So they're using this kind of principle, like, how can you get people to invest time and resources into your product? It's kind of like a mean approach. It's not the best ones, I don't think. Other ones, okay, this is like a mean one as well, is from Prezi. So if you don't know, like, Prezi software to make nice, beautiful presentations. And what happens when you unsubscribe is they say, when you unsubscribe, all of your private presentations are now going to be made public. So if you've got some like sensitive business presentations you've done to your boss or something like this, then actually if you unsubscribe, they're all going to be made public. So probably the only option you have is to delete them afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Which is another kind of like shocking tactic that I didn't expect to uncover. I only uncovered it because I walked through their funnel, right? But there's some nicer ones. So here's one from Canva. So when you unsubscribe, they basically reiterate what kinds of things are you going to lose out on. So they tell you about the benefits, the features that you get on their pro plan that you might have forgotten or you were never aware of in the first place, right? Because a lot of times when we subscribe to like a product, we do it for one specific thing, but maybe we didn't realize about all these other benefits we had. So they remind you of these different benefits and they link you to those different benefits so you can go and use them straight away. And what they also do to try and keep you is, as soon as you've unsubscribed from Canva, then in the email they send instantly, they say, hey, do you want to resubscribe to Canva again? Because it's interesting, because we did this thing at Typeform where we added a button after you unsubscribe saying, hey, do you want to resubscribe again? I think 20% of people who unsubscribed resubscribed in like a few minutes. So they must have clicked it by mistake. Never underestimate what might be going on in your product and where people might be clicking, you know, because I guess some people expect that if you click on a button, you're gonna be able to go back to where you were before, right? So allow people to easily resubscribe as soon as they have unsubscribed. And a lot of these SaaS companies, when you click on unsubscribe, they don't just take you to like a confirmation screen. They send you back to the pricing screen to give you the chance to upgrade or downgrade to like a different plan. And add Espresso, which is a software which allows you to optimize your Google and Facebook ads. Then they have a secret plan, which isn't on their pricing page. They call it their university plan, and I can't remember how much it costs, but it's like $10 or $20 or something. And they have a secret plan, which is lower priced because I guess through doing a survey. And a lot of these SaaS companies, they have a churn survey, right? So when you churn, they say, hey, why did you churn? Because they want to make a feedback loop where you can get this feedback and then improve your product, right? And feedback loops are super, super important. And I guess they found out that a lot of people churn because it costs too much money or they're not using the product or some kind of reason. So they have a secret plan where they say, hey, do you want to subscribe to this lower plan that we have for you? And then I guess they have a lot of people sticking around because pricing was an issue. And then the last example I have is from Squarespace, right? I guess a lot of people know Squarespace, where you can build websites. One thing they do is they give you easy access to their help center articles. So if you're not sure how to use a product, then they embed these in the actual product itself. And we did the same in Typeform, and we saw an increase in activation rates, and now people getting to like the aha moment in the product. So if you don't link to your help center articles, it's really good to put them actually in your product, like in your sidebar, and do them contextually, right? So depending on where you are in your product, you can show different articles to help people and guide them to these different articles. Because a lot of time when people make a help center, they use them in like the support tickets, or people happen to find them when they need help. So it's more reactive, but you can be more proactive and push it to people in the product. And the other thing that Squarespace does is one of their emails, they have a dedicated email to integrate Squarespace into your other workflows. The goal here is by using integrations, people will become more sticky, right? Because they've integrated you in their workflow, so it's more of a pain to then remove you in the future, right? And we had a similar strategy at Typeform where we were building different integrations because we didn't want people to spend money on Zapier. We want people to spend money on Typeform. So we want to increase our share of wallet. The integrations on Zapier weren't amazing either. And also we want to make people as sticky as possible, so they would integrate Typeform into their workflows. So we wouldn't leave, and we would decrease our churn, and then we'd increase our lifetime values, and then our annual recurring revenue, right? So these are some tactics SaaS companies are using, and it was super interesting to walk through these different funnels.
Yeah, and as we can see, there are like a lot of different ways you can do on that point. But I think still the thing that is more important is to acquire the right clients and keep the clients happy before they even try to churn from you. What do you think, Jake, will be happening on like sales and marketing in the future? For example, what will happen in next 5 years? Where is the space boat going?
Nice analogy, right? It's just tricky question to try and predict where we're going to be in 5 years, because like no one predicted what's happening right now. So I had a thought, and a few things like came to mind. So one thing I'm thinking is, I think people are going to have more hybrid business models, right? Because in the context of SaaS, when you just have a subscription model, it's called pure play SaaS. So right now, most SaaS companies are just subscription-based business models, right? But I think in the future, companies are going to have like more of a hybrid model where they won't just offer a subscription. They'll offer other things as well, like add-on services, for example, that like the sales team or people can use in your product. So imagine like an SEO tool. People subscribe to it for, say, $30 per month, but they can also get other SEO services for their website. You know, right now it's not seen as best practice because people just think subscription. But it makes business sense. I think models are going to become more hybrid. So what does this mean for sales and marketing? It means the world's going to become more complex, because it's not going to be, let's get people into our products and make sure they subscribe, you know, because Typeform is easy in the sense that people come, they self-serve, they don't speak to anyone in sales. I think like less than 1% of the revenue at Typeform is from a sales team. The rest is just people who find the product, they sign up, they use it, and then they pay, right? And it's simple because there's one sign-up form, people come and pay, etc. But with this hybrid business models, I think it's going to happen. Then marketing teams and sales teams are going to have to sell other add-on services to increase revenue, you know, because we know, for example, paid ads are getting more expensive, as maybe not right now, but the future says they will become more expensive. And only the big players are there, right? So in the space of Typeform, for like online forms, online surveys, there's like MailChimp's there, SurveyMonkey's there, Qualtrics is there, which like they're like SaaS unicorns. They have like $1 billion companies, so it's really hard to compete there. And we know the people who can compete are the people with the biggest lifetime value, right? So if your SaaS company doesn't have as big lifetime value as like MailChimp, then if you make a hybrid model and then you offer like an add-on service or something like this, then you can get to a higher lifetime value, which allows you to spend money in different channels, which you couldn't do before, whether it's like LinkedIn ads or Facebook ads or paid search or whatever, you know? So different teams are gonna have to adapt to this, whether it's like sales teams or marketing teams. Like, so if you think it's complex now, it's not. It's gonna get a lot more complex. And like the other thing I was thinking is that there's going to be a bigger gap between having someone as a super generalist marketer, for example, who can do a bit of everything, and having someone as a super specialist who can do one thing very well. And there's not going to be much room in between. People are going to want to hire super generalists or super specialists, right? So in terms of like super generalists, as like ad platforms become more automated through machine learning, then maybe you don't need a dedicated paid search person anymore or a dedicated Facebook ads person anymore, because most of it's automated anyway. So you'll probably have someone who's more generalist, who would manage more than one channel at a time. But at the same time, there might be something new on the market. I don't know, you might want someone super specialist in customer marketing, right? Because it's going to be more important than ever to be in contact with your customers, and the people who do, and be the brands who win. So maybe you need like a super specialist in one specific thing, right? So that's a hard question for people making the decision: do I specialize or do I generalize in something? You know, so that's kind of how I see the next few years. I don't know if it's 5 years, maybe there's gonna be more crazy stuff in 5 years time, but these are like a few things that I'd thought of.
Yeah, sounds very interesting. Thanks for sharing those ones. Then I think like one very important thing in marketing is how to measure the marketing, and that of course like depends on a lot on like what kind of company you are. But where should you start, like deciding on what to measure, and what do you think are like the most important key metrics that you should follow on your SaaS business marketing?
Okay, for a SaaS company, makes sense. So to begin with, like we touched on before, like the most common like breakdown in types of marketing is you have like your performance or growth marketing, and you have your brand marketing. I've spoken to a lot of different companies, and usually the split in the budget is 25% is on brand marketing, and the other 75% is on your, let's call it growth marketing, right? So first of all, you have to segment your marketing activities into these two categories, because with your brand marketing, you don't have any ROI attached. You know, usually your KPI is brand reach and brand awareness, brand recall, these different metrics, with the assumption that over time this is going to help your growth marketing initiatives, right? Because people are more familiar with your brand, and when they need a solution, then they're going to Google the name of your brand, or they're going to Google like the solution, etc. So for like brand marketing, usually it's like a reach metric, and you have to get benchmarks from other companies to convince your finance team, because they're going to say, why do you want to spend all this money on brand marketing, right? It's the hardest one to get through. So the best tactic that I've used is to do a benchmark, speak to other companies in your industry or similar companies, and present a benchmark, and figure out a way to measure brand marketing, which is probably through like reach on like a weekly, monthly basis, and then on a quarterly basis, it's through your lift in your brand awareness. You know, and if you have a budget, then you can do these studies on Facebook ads or YouTube ads, but usually it's like 20K minimum to run this test, so it's not cheap, you know, to run this. But if the top brands are doing this, then it should be enough to have this benchmark. In terms of like growth marketing, so if the growth marketing is responsible for like signups, for example, like I'm of the opinion that signups is a vanity metric, because you can't always predictably predict the conversion rate of your signups, right? Because you have different sources. Like you might have people looking for your brand in Google, but then you might have like some referral traffic from someone else's website, and the conversion rates can be very different. You know, so first you have to segment by channel, but I think it's a must that every SaaS company you shouldn't really be measuring signups. You should be measuring activations. So this is a metric inside your product that happens within 7 days of someone like clicking on an ad, for example, and it correlates to revenue, sometimes retention, depends how you want to look at it. There's different opinions, right? And this metric is basically signals the aha moment, or when someone gets the value in your product. So for example, in the context of Typeform, it's people who sign up to Typeform and then preview their Typeform. This is what we found correlated most to revenue. And I spoke to Slack, and their metric was, because they keep reinventing this metric like every 6 months, it was people who sign up, they create a team on Slack, and they have a business email address. So they found a metric that they could use, and then by getting more of these people, they knew that they would have like a 10% conversion rate to new subscriber afterwards, for example. So they found a metric where they could predict revenue afterwards, and this metric happened in basically the present, right? Because what we spoke about before is that usually in B2B you have like a lag, especially if you have freemium like Slack or Typeform, etc. So you have to find something which can correlate to your revenue in the present, and then try and find more of these people. You know, because at Typeform we did a lot of A/B tests, like changing landing page copy and ads and these types of things. But we saw an increase in signups, but we didn't see any increase in activations in our product. So in the end, what did we achieve? You could argue not much, or you could argue the product should be better. But generally, what you should focus on as a growth marketing team is your activation metric, and push this. Like at TravelPerk, the metric we chose, which wasn't a product metric, it was basically a marketing metric, because basically the marketing team at TravelPerk is a demand gen machine, like a lead gen machine. We're trying to generate more leads for TravelPerk. So the metric was marketing qualified leads. but we chose this because there was a qualification aspect to it. It wasn't how many leads can we get, it was how many qualified leads can we get. And if you're trying to drive people through like a self-serve model where people can come and sign for free, they have to find like a product metric, like a product qualified lead, someone who comes and does something in your product, which correlates to revenue, but isn't a sign up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And now we are soon out of time. So now you can share your last thoughts, last words for our listeners regarding on growth marketing. What is the like one thing to remind from this conversation?
One thing to remember from this conversation, I mean, it's not simple. There's lots of nuances to it. I guess two words of advice. One would be network a lot with other people in growth, because you know that's how I've learned all of these things I just told you, because I spoke to people, right? If I hadn't spoken to anyone, then I would probably be, I would still try to be figuring things out. And the second one is like analyze other companies, walk through their funnel, see what they're up to, try and analyze them, like read a lot online. But I think the top thing is just to speak to people, like network with them, because that's how you're gonna learn the most. And most people don't do that. You know, like a lot of people, they say, I'm gonna do LinkedIn ads. They build their campaign, they launch it, but they never spoke to one person who'd done LinkedIn ads. And that's crazy, right? So speak to someone who's already done it and then do it afterwards. So that would be my top piece of advice.
Great. Thanks for those. And thank you very much, Jake, for joining me to this show. And thanks you for our listeners. And have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great week, guys. Bye.